Hi, my name is Neva Warren, though you may know me better as Chipmunk. I received that trail name while I was on my quest to become the youngest solo thru hiker of the Appalachian Trail. Now, as Matthew said, this isn't my first adventure. 2 years ago, I went on a 3,800-mile bike ride with my parents and our dog, going from Florida up to Michigan and Ohio and New York and ending in Kentucky after 4 months. This was to promote the healthy sport of BMX racing. Now, earlier in my life, I had read the Bill Bryson book, A Walk in the Woods, and I'd heard about the Appalachian Trail, and my parents were considering hiking it, but it was always a faraway idea, and I never really thought of it as something I even wanted to do. There was no compelling feeling of why would you even want to hike 2,100 miles. That sounds very tiring. But the inspiration for my hike came when I went on vacation with my parents to Shenandoah National Park last October, and we were sitting in Big Meadows Lodge, and it was a rainy, miserable day. I was inside enjoying Wi-Fi and hot chocolate and had, again, no desire to hike. And my father dragged my mom and myself out to go on a 3-mile loop from Big Meadows Lodge, in a loop, back to Big Meadows Lodge. And in that 3 miles, I found that not only was I a competent hiker and fairly quick, I also enjoyed hiking. And it had been a long while since I'd actually liked exercise. So we came back into Big Meadows Lodge and dried off, and I started thinking about the Appalachian Trail, which we had crossed the section when we were on this loop. And I kind of turned to my parents and I said, you know, who do you think is the youngest person to have hiked it? And we found out that the youngest person was around 6 or so, and I was not eligible to become the youngest person to hike it, but that no one had hiked it alone at my age. So if I started hiking this following year, that I could become the youngest solo thru hiker. Now, for those of you who don't know a lot about the Appalachian Trail, it is 2,100 miles long. It averages about 5 million steps for people who want to complete the whole journey. Usually around 2,000 people a year start on the trail, and around 500 or less finish, usually about 20%. Now, why do so many drop off? Well, it's generally considered to be one of the toughest trails in America, and in fact, in the world, and it is the longest connected footpath. And the amount that you ascend on the Appalachian Trail is equivalent to climbing Everest 16 times. And I started April 1st, which was a slightly later start date, but we did that to avoid a lot of bad weather. And I ended October 22nd, a total of over 6.5 months. Now, we took a lot of safety precautions, obviously, me being so young, and hiking alone, completely, you know, alone in the wilderness, except for people who would pass me occasionally, because I was quite slow. And we had a Spot GPS device, which would send up breadcrumb tracking to my parents, and they could follow online where I was and make sure I didn't get off trail or lost. I had pepper spray with me, and my mom had a unique way of keeping me safe. When other hikers would come and visit the truck camper, which my parents were driving along the roads in while I was hiking, she would give them a sugary treat every time that they told her how I was doing. So she was training the thru hikers that if they would come in with good news that I was okay, that she would give them a sugary treat. And she was training the other hikers. Now, there were obviously a lot of worries while I was hiking, things you don't typically consider, like having to go to the bathroom when all you have is a little orange shovel as a bathroom. That's your bathroom. And when you're out at a nice Chinese restaurant for lunch, you don't think, oh boy, I hope a bear doesn't come in and massacre us. But that was a problem for me and something I had to worry about. The difference between a thru hiker, a section hiker, and a day hiker is when a day hiker hikes past, you lean in, you smell them because they smell so good. And when a section hiker walks by, you breathe normally, and when a thru hiker walks by, you have to hold your nose. We had to go without showers very frequently. Now, I mentioned that my trail name was Chipmunk, And now, a lot of people don't understand trail names, thinking that it's just, you know, nicknames that other people give each other for hiking. But in my opinion, it's a big way for hikers to disconnect from their home life, going to work, going to school, just being at home and being out in the wilderness. And a lot of people are completely different people being at home and being on the trail. So the trail name really helps with that disconnect. Now, there were a lot of trials and tribulations during my hike. I had hand-over-hand climbing on places like the Knife's Edge, Dragon's Tooth, and Blood Mountain, which sounds amazingly pleasant, right? That was, the day that I went over Blood Mountain was my worst day on the Appalachian Trail. It was April 4th, it was my 4th day on the trail. The day before, I had gotten new boots because the first day on the trail, I rolled my left ankle. Second day, I rolled my right ankle. And I stuck sticks into my boots to keep my ankle up and hiked more miles after I rolled them. And the third day, I got new boots. So 4th day, new boots. And it's generally considered by other thru hikers in my year to be known as Hell Day. April 4th is because it was rain, sleet, high winds, and freezing temperatures. And I was climbing Blood Mountain, and it's 11 miles between Woody's Gap and Neal's Gap. And I left the car, I hiked 5.5 miles up in rain. By the time I got to the top, it was below 30 degrees, and everything was frozen. The trees really scared me because the ice was frozen over, and every time it swayed in the wind, it sounded like they were going to fall on my head, which was the scariest part of my hike. I got to the top where there was a bald at the top of Blood Mountain, meaning there was no trees, and it was just a rock face. And I would time running out of the trees with when I thought there was the least bit of wind. So I'd hear go shh and then stop, and I'd go run, 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 across the bald. So I came down the mountain and on frozen slippery rocks and everything like that, and I got to the bottom at Neal's Gap. And my parents were waiting, they greeted me, and my mom ran into the store, which was at the bottom, and got me a hot chocolate, and my dad helped me take off my wet hiking clothes, but because he's my dad, he left my underclothes on and put me in warm, dry clothes. And when I walked into the store, I got my hot chocolate, I was having a snack, and I realized there was a bit of moisture on the seat around me, and that was when I realized that my underwear had finally thawed. Yeah, it's a tough day. That was my worst day on the trail, but my worst day off trail was on a 0 day. Now, hikers take Nero and 0 days, where they hike little or no miles, and they use these days to rest, recuperate, and decompress from the stress of having to hit so many miles a day. Now, usually on 0 days, hikers would go to bars. And seeing as how I'm 15 and don't typically go to bars, I decided to take a 0 day in Vermont and go to the mall instead. And I was at the mall with a few of my hiking friends, and I'd hiked over 1,700 miles from Georgia to Vermont at this point. And I went into a vintage clothing store, and I saw a cocktail dress hanging on the wall. And I really wouldn't have much use for it because I was hiking, but I thought it would be nice for a 0 day or a special occasion, and I asked the clerk if I could try it on, and it definitely looked like it would fit me. And the clerk told me that I would let you try it on, but it would never fit. It would never zip up. It's much too small for you. And in that moment, I felt ashamed of my body. After hiking 1,700 miles, climbing in numerous mountain ranges, I felt ashamed from one comment. This made me realize that my brain had been trained to value appearance over ability so much that months and months of work could be torn down with just one comment. Now, the way that our brains are trained is through mostly advertisements, in my opinion, is that sports are promoted to and for men, that products for exercising target how the user will look and not feel, that purses in sports are larger for men, that even when women are in sports, they're still discouraged and they're still not given as much of a reward as men are in sports. That in sporting advertisements, women have perfect hair and makeup, when in reality, when I was hiking, my hair was tangled and my face was sweating. And the thing that's most stunning to me is that female models who are paid to portray athletes in advertisements are in fact paid more than the athletes that they're portraying in those sports. Now, I'd like to propose a new way of thinking, that strength is the new beauty, that this brain training is having such a negative effect on our body image that everyone should consider just changing their view. And hopefully we can change something and we won't have this huge incongruence between the amount that we value appearance and the amount that we value ability and strength. I think we all deserve praise for ability over appearance. Now, my parents raised me to say, they never said that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. They said you can change the oil on the car, and you can wear pretty dresses, and you can rock climb, and you can sew. You can do whatever you want, and none of this is all just part of your personality. But when I grew up, I started realizing that not everyone had this experience. The parents would say, okay, you can change the oil, you can rock climb, but that makes you a tomboy, and you can't paint your nails or wear dresses. And they were already so early, just straight from being a baby, putting them into stereotypes. And the reason that I'm interested in activism is so that girls and women of the future don't have to experience this, that they can have the upbringing that I had, that nothing can stop you because of your gender. Now, a lot of people ask me what's next after through hiking the trail. Well, I aim to do 12 Herculean tasks in my lifetime. The first being my 3,800-mile bike ride, the second being the Appalachian Trail, and I really don't know what's next. But the thing is, when the road gets tough and the trail's really hard and I feel like giving up, I remember a certain quote from Babe Ruth. It's never let the fear of striking out hold you back. And the Appalachian Trail just serves to remind me that I've never struck out. Thank you very much.